Welcome back to GaVira Unfiltered. I'm Vidya, co founder of GaVira, a practice focused on women, dedicating to help women navigate their career, life changes, and decisions that define who they become. GaVira Unfiltered exists because we believe the most important and powerful stories aren't about arriving at a destination. They're about the journey, the pivots, the uncertainty, the seasons that quietly reshape everything and the women who move through them with more courage than they will ever give themselves credit for. They are the women who choose to exist and exist in a greater way. There are women who choose a career, and there are women who spend a lifetime searching for a place where they can make the greatest difference. Our guest today has never really been interested in staying inside one definition of herself. She's been a journalist, a teacher, an entrepreneur, a career counselor, and today she's training to become a psychological counselor. At first glance, it looks like a career filled with unexpected twists and turns. But if you listen closely, you will realize she has been following the same thread all along. As a little girl, she gave her favorite toys away to children who had none. And years later, standing in an orphanage, she found herself holding the hand of a little boy who simply didn't want her to leave. She still remembers that moment. Not because it was dramatic, but because it revealed something she had carried with her ever since, a quiet inability to look away when someone needs help. That instinct shaped everything that followed. It led her into journalism because she wanted to tell stories that mattered. It led her to build a company where people were treated fairly because she couldn't accept unfair workplaces. It led her into career counseling because she remembered what it felt like to search for direction without guidance. And today it has brought her to psychology. Not because it's another qualification she needs to have, but because she believes too many people are struggling in silence and that conversations around mental health need to become less frightening and far more human. Linda describes herself as a rebel with a cause, someone whose greatest strength is also her greatest weakness, someone who reads endlessly because learning for her was never about collecting knowledge. It has always been about understanding people a little better than she did yesterday. She's a writer, a counselor, entrepreneur, lifelong learner, and above all, a woman who has spent her life becoming the person she once needed herself. Welcome to GaVira Unfiltered, Linda. We are so glad you're here.
Thank you, Vidya. How are you?
I am doing good and I'm looking forward to getting to know you a bit better. I know you and I had conversation at length, but today I want to take that to the viewers so they can know a bit of you and your journey and where you're headed towards.
Thank you for having me on GaVira.
Thank you and let's get started. So, whatever you and I had conversations about, I think my thought process was it was rarely about just one moment. It was not one pivoting moment that said, this is it. It wasn't that big a big bang. And it usually starts with a pattern of things. And what I understood from your story was that your pattern had a definitive nature that had brought you here. And I want to walk through those patterns and moments with you today. I think let's get from the start, the story of it, right? One of the earliest memories you have shared with me was giving away your toys to children in your neighborhood. And years later, you spoke about a little boy at the orphanage who wouldn't let go of your finger. And looking back now, do those moments feel like the beginning of something that has quietly followed you through your entire life? And if so, why?
Yeah. Yeah. See, as a child, I've always craved for good human connections, lasting human connections, and people mattered. You can say I was naive as a child. Of course, all children are, but then still today, I believe in only one religion, humanity. That's my religion. So I don't call myself an atheist or anything, maybe an agnostic. but I believe in one religion, humanity. So I refuse to give up. And I think that better human connections, compassion towards each other, and if I can do a bit more, I felt I can always do a bit more than what's existing, what people are ready to accept. I think I can do a bit more to change
Mhm.
their perception, and that's what I'm always driving towards. That's what I felt each of those moments. Those are only a couple of moments I had shared with you, and there are many more. But frankly speaking, a human being, a normal human being, doesn't have one particular pivotal moment. They go through experiences through lifetime. And today I'm 46 and I've gone through quite a few experiences. So naturally, they have shaped me as who I am today. So I think that's what triggered repeatedly triggered that spirit in me that I need to do more. There's a lot I can do. So that is why.
Actually, like the way you described, your religion is humanity. That is something that, many of us who are trying to change the aspects of world, trying to change the behaviors of the world think. And I share that with you. And it's a very fond, you know, connect to have as well. It's like very less people talk about that, but everybody needs that from the other person.
Exactly.
So bring
Exactly.
it out. I'm so glad we are talking about it. And I think it's just the beginning of everything that is changing in this world that'll come to that point where we say, yes, this is what we need moving forward. And
And we see that in this in our country today as well, with everything that's going on. Yeah, change is coming.
change is the only constant, Linda. You and I spoke about
Exactly.
that, right?
Yes.
So you've always described yourself as someone who has always been searching through books, through people. Even now, you're talking about conversations. So, what do you think you were looking for long before you had the words to describe even what you're looking for?
Human connections, people. It's always
Lasting
been about
connections.
human connections. It's always about, yes, lasting human connections, connections that matter, not just for financial needs or financial goals. It's more about human connections where people show compassion to each other. You know, that's the world that I want to live in. That's the world that I would want our children to live in and our next generations to live in. A toxic world where we are leading right now. So I want people to be more compassionate towards each other. That can only bring about good, lasting human connections.
It's actually a great perspective, right? When you talk about world, when you talk about lasting connections, it brings a thought process that we miss on a day-to-day basis. Compassion, right? You are wishing somebody good morning. Are you really thinking about wishing them a very good morning, or is that just because somebody taught you
Is
that's the
this
way to put
morning?
it?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. The
Good.
way intentionally you build your day also makes sure how you are moving through those hours in your day, which is quite important.
Absolutely.
Compassion. I am with you on that. And talking about compassion, good morning wishes, let's go a little bit about, your work. I think you told me one of those things that I remember. You told that every other boss that you have worked with, you've been straight with them. When they are wrong, you made sure that they knew what you were thinking. So, whether it was a challenging boss and you refusing to compromise as a journalist, or creating that workspace where people were treated fairly, I think there seems to be a line that you would simply never cross. Where did that inner compass of yours come from?
Mostly from my dad. The core beliefs, the morals that I hold, they are mostly from my dad, but he was not very vocal. He would suffer quietly, which is something that I had reflected on myself, and I felt, why should I? And why should anybody else? So that's why I raised my voice. I said no. When something was wrong done against me, done against a person working next to me, or generally speaking, as a policy by the newspaper, or I mean, the company. I don't want to get into any more details about the different companies that I've worked for. So, whether it was about the general policies, or whether I felt that, we are being manipulated by the owners or the authorities there be. So I have always revolted against what is wrong. I say that, see, we should always do justice to by our readers or viewers or whoever may be our target audience. So to do that, we have to be honest and sincere to ourselves when we write everything. No matter, each and every word should hold meaning. It should not just be following the company line, towing the company line. That's not it. So I've always, like if a boss says something that you have to do it because the company wants you to do it, or maybe some bosses are toxic, like just like any other people, bosses are people after all. So when people have a very negative attitude, trying to put down the others, or men generally trying to take the credit for what women did, which is often seen in workplaces, especially corporate workplaces. So, whether it's about me or whether it's about anybody else, no matter what, I would always say, sir, you're wrong. That was not you. Or, see, that was not you. I mean, whoever the guy may be, I would say that was not you, that was her. Or me, if it was me, no, don't take the credit for what I did. That's unfair. So I was not liked because of that by many people, especially those who try to take credit for others' work, or those who would rather toe the company line and do as they want, and then that's how they climb the ladder. That's not the way I want to climb the ladder. So my most of what I have learned comes from my dad, and a lot of it comes from books that I've read. And call me an idealist, but yeah, if that's a bad thing, then I guess I'm the bad guy.
I have a different point of view because I think the world needs all sorts of people, and idealists are the better part of people that we would like to have as well. And there is a saying that people say, charity begins at home, but there is also, the work ethics and the morale that actually starts from home. So if you hold yourselves to higher standards, not willing to budge, that's also going to reflect at the
That's
workplace
exactly
ethics,
what I
right?
wanted to change. That's exactly what I wanted to change when I started my company in content writing and editing. So I wanted to make sure that our clients get the most out of what they paid for, while the employees are not overburdened or taken advantage of, and they get a healthy atmosphere to work in. So that was my main idea, or my main goal, when giving up on journalism and starting a company in content writing and editing. Because while I was a journalist, I used to sometimes freelance as a content writer for this and that company. So I knew the world of content creation, or text content creation a bit. So I wanted to change that. So I thought, okay, this is what I wanted to do. And I came back from Gurgaon, and at the time I was in Gurgaon. So I came back and I started this company in Kolkata. So I've been in Kolkata since then.
You once said that when you are growing up, or while you were growing up, you didn't really have someone guiding you through your choices. And when you look back at the work you're doing today as a career counselor and now a psychological counselor, it almost feels like you've become that person you wish you had back then. Does that
Yes,
resonate
yes.
with you, and how do you feel?
Yes, actually, when I was in class, since I was in class 8 till my college days, and even in masters, I've always been in two minds about a lot of things. See, I won't brag, but I was actually good in all subjects, but I was clueless about where this path is going to lead me to. Which path should I pursue? I wasn't sure. because I love the sciences, I love the arts, I loved everything that we studied, but I didn't know what to do with it. And in those, what happens if you see, I would not even attempt the entire test paper, to be very frank. I would go like about, okay, I know I'll get 60, 70%, and I'll submit the answer sheets and go to the library and study something entirely different. So that is how I was. So my the librarian, she was a nun. I studied in Kamal High School in Kolkata. So the librarian would come up to me and say, "Dear, what are you doing? Aren't you supposed to be having your exams?" And I would say, "Yes, sister, but I'm done." So she would grill me for like 2 minutes. What am I up to and all, thinking that I'm, going to flunk because I actually did not attempt the paper at all. And then she would hear about it. Okay, no, she's passed. That, they had the perception that I hate to study. But the thing is, for me, it was more like I don't know how much effort I should put into any of these subjects. I
Mm-hmm.
studied them all. In fact, whenever I got the books first, even before the session starts, my books are done. Then I would attend all the classes, take down all the notes, and when I write down something, that kind of in my mind. So I don't need to go over that over and over again. Learning is not my thing. I don't need that even. So the night before the exam, I'll go over everything. I would pin a sticky note outside my door. Don't disturb me before this time. I'll stay awake late in the night, study, and then go to sleep, get up, brush my teeth, and go to give the exam. Okay. They were always okay, okay. I would say I always scored above 70%. I didn't know what I wanted to be. When I was in class 10, giving my boards exam, I scored around the same marks, around a little over 70%. And at that time, those days in Kolkata, West Bengal board, our state board was the toughest among ICSE, CBSE, and state board. So that marks was good enough for me to easily get into science. So I got into science. It's like the obvious thing. You got good marks, so get into science. It's like as if it's
Yeah.
a given. So, but then, okay, I did well, but I was not uh, sure whether I wanted to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when I finished my higher secondary, and then I had three options in front of me. Okay, which came very easily to me, as in like almost in a platter: zoology,
Mm-hmm.
psychology, or journalism. Because my father's side they're into medicine, my mother's side they're into journalism. And zoology, I had like randomly applied to different colleges. Zoology was the first thing that where I was shortlisted, so I had kept that as an option. And then I also applied in another college for psychology, where I was also shortlisted. But I would have to wait in a line from early in the morning, and all that. All that was there. So I was like, no, I'm not going to put so much effort right now. I was, I'm like the person who would rather use my brain than my brawn. I was like that, lazy. So,
Well,
like, if I had to take down the blanket, I would go to climb fewer stairs, gradually pull down the blanket so that I don't have to go all the way up and push it down. So, I'm like that, a bit physically lazy, mentally fast. So that is why, so when I was in that position, like, I felt that if I had a guide, somebody to guide, because my dad was always out on tours, like work tours, and I didn't have a proper guide who would tell me what to do, what not to do, what to pursue, what not to pursue. There was nobody to help me out. So I when ultimately, let's cut this short. I'll tell you, I didn't take up I didn't take up zoology. I did take up zoology. I chopped it for journalism. I did not go for psychology because there was this long line. So what I did was, during the course of my journalism studies, as in my bachelor's, I got one article published, which the first time I got to publish any article under my name as byline was in Asian Age, and it was on career counseling. And I had to take the help of psychologists to get that article done. Psychologists and a few people who are there in the field of education. So there was nobody to guide anyone, any student on their path. And today there is that opportunity that students are getting where they can select their career based on their aptitude, based on what they like, based on what motivates them, based on their emotional quotient, based on a lot of various aspects
Yeah.
that make them who they are, not just their
Correct.
marks or not just what their parents tell them to do. So that's why I'm in career counseling. Workshops are coming up in next month. So yeah.
Busy days ahead. And talking about careers, Linda, I think we all know from the introduction and whatever you have told us that you have changed your career many times, but
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like a directional change. You have kept moving to something or towards something and much more closer to it. So
Yes.
tell the
Yes.
viewers, what is that something?
People again. See, as a journalist, I thought I was serving the people, but then from a very, very far away. And I felt that we were not really making much change. And frankly speaking, if you look at the mainstream media today, not really doing much for the society. So I wanted to come out of that, and I wanted to make a direct impact in people's lives. So when I was serving my clients with the help of my employees and freelancers as a company, the blogs that we were writing meant more to people because they could read that while they were just scrolling their phone. And whether it was related to health or any medicine, or it was about their skincare or whatever. I mean, the kind of I usually did technical and medical projects. So we took up,
Mhm.
rather, I would say we took up medical and technical projects. So I feel that we were able to get closer to people's minds and hearts, okay? Because
Mhm.
they would even be sitting in the loo and scrolling through their phone and find our blogs. Next step, I felt that since I had that pinch in at the back of my head that about I was not able to pick the right career. So I thought that I would do a certification course on that, and I would help out. I would reach out to students. I would reach out to even working professionals. A lot of my clients are working professionals at my age. They are
Mhm.
switching. So they are not sure whether they had got down the right path. So now they are reaching out to me. So I help them. I help young students in their school, colleges, and even recently I went to my university where I had passed out from. A lot of people were asking me a lot of questions. They have taken my card, and some of them have already called me. And yeah, they are uh, aware, and they are consciously focusing their energy on finding the right trajectory. And coming even more closer to the heart is where psychology comes in, where the people don't even realize that they are in angst, they are in pain. They try to suppress those emotions and push forward, but you sometimes need to give yourself a break. So
Definitely. And
my goal has always been to come closer and closer to people so that I can help them in every way I can. And I'm also working on another project where I hope I can change a bit of the financial industry, but that's for another time.
yes, for all the listeners, do not brush anything under your carpet. Feel the feelings and work through it. And if we have not understood until now what you're doing, let me clearly name it. I think you deeply care about people. And Linda, you said caring deeply for one is your greatest strength, but you also
Yeah.
described it as, something that has hurt you in the past. So, how do you hold on to your compassion without letting it consume you? at the moment?
Psychology helped me. I'll be very honest. Because psychology, the study of the human mind, if you have an insight into the human mind, you will see that people do things for a reason. I'm not saying things happen for a reason. No, people do things for a reason. Unless and until we know the reason, we should not react. And if you can do that, that's a first step to compassion.
Yes. So
I think yeah,
you mean to say, let's use compassion in our day-to-day aspects, right? So, for example, if somebody is not having a great day, so the moment you walk into the office, they're like, you didn't do this, you did this, blah, blah, blah. The way you
breathe
switch it
them
up,
first. Read them
exactly,
first.
exactly.
Gauge the temperature. Whether they are your junior or senior, gauge the temperature. They may be having a very bad day. I know I may have had a bad day, but that's the sacrifice that we all have to make. Be present, show up for the other person, no matter what's happening in your life. If we can do that, just greet the other person and study the other person. If they are in uh, tremendous emotional stress, they may not be able to control it and they may lash out at you.
True.
So that lashing out is a sign that something bad is happening to that person. So instead of just bluntly asking them, "What's wrong with you?" There are ways of asking them, "Are you okay? Do you need some help with something?" If you're in a workplace environment, depending wherever you are. So there are ways of reaching out to that person and coming to the same wavelength, coming on the same platform, on the same level, if you just show a bit of compassion. Stop and pause, take a deep breath, and try to analyze what's wrong with the person.
True. And I think it helps a lot if you try to look at the conversation from the other person's perspective and
Yes,
see how you would take that in. I think that would
yes,
take away most of the conflict situations that people have to
exactly,
handle.
exactly.
And thinking about what we have been talking about, I think you have told me that what worries you isn't just that people struggle with their mental health, is that
Mhm.
many don't even realize that they are struggling. They do not have a means by which they know, or they may be afraid for seeking help. So if we became a little more
Societal pressure.
comfortable,
That's
yeah,
societal
yeah.
pressure.
So if we become a little more comfortable as a society having those conversations, what do you think would change the way we are?
This is exactly coming from the previous question. We would be more compassionate towards each other, and we would try to read the other person before reacting. So we won't, just blurt out or react or say something brash that hurts the other person even more, and the cycle continues. So instead, if we can just take a pause and then, reflect on what's happening, okay, and then ask. If you're more curious about the other person, compassion comes automatically.
True.
The moment you feel that this is my right, I don't deserve this, those emotions are very negative. Whenever, even when I was, it reminds me that when I was in corporate environment in the media, my compassion was eroding away, which was one of the main reasons why I wanted to get out. I was getting suffocated. I felt my sense of uh, being and being compassionate, all those things, all those my core values were eroding. I didn't want that to happen. And I don't want others to compromise on that.
True.
What I deserve, what others deserve, what is justified, all those things. But for that to matter to everybody else, everybody has to be compassionate.
Yes. And I think that's been the center of anything and everything that we are talking about today. Compassion, care, raise your voice. If things are not okay with you or somebody else around you, I think it's the first step is to make sure that you are heard. And then you try understanding the other person's perspective. Try reading the room, as you said. Try reading the room.
Yes.
Try reacting on basis of what you think. And One sentence for me that I've used all throughout my life, Linda, is that if you don't want something to happen to you, then do not do
Don't
that to
do
the
it to
other
her.
person. I think that is a simple, statement, but it has a very deeper meaning for me and probably many others as well. It's just simple in our brains, but it's not black and white, right? There's a lot of
Yeah,
gray.
in practicality, it becomes very difficult. We all
Mm.
have an ego. We all have an ego. And when that gets inflated, it comes in the way of our judgment.
It's like market crashing at the moment. In the introduction as well, I said that you called yourself a rebel, but you said it yourself, a rebel with a cause whose strength is also her weakness. So if you could speak to a woman who first walked into that newsroom as you did, knowing everything you know right now, what would you tell her?
Okay, if it's if it's a corporate setting, then I would tell her try to remain as inconspicuous as possible. Learn, absorb everything that you see around you. First, analyze all the data that you collect while remaining inconspicuous without reacting and not being yes sir, yes ma'am like that. But uh, don't get too friendly very quickly. That's a very, I would say that can be detrimental to that person, whoever
Mhm.
is a fresher. So if you are joining into the joining the corporate media world, and you are new, you're fresher, you're fresh out of college or university, try to stay inconspicuous, learn, absorb, perceive, and make your own judgment based on that, but don't show that you're judging others. You have to be very tactful. Otherwise, you won't survive the corporate world. And once you have found each and every person's weakness, that's your trump card. Don't have to use it bluntly, but always make it subtly known that, see, boss, I know your secrets, but if you are going to be unfair to me, I'm not going to be fair to you either. I have actually done that often. And initially, I was naive and I used to, no, this is not right and all that. So I would say that. But then later on, I realized that I need a weapon. This is not working. So being rebellious always does not mean that you just oppose something head on. Understand something and you prepare your weapon that will, you need not use it, but you can hold it over the other person's head because they are being unfair to you. Otherwise, it's useless. Don't use it. If you are a true, genuine human being, don't use it.
Might not be even a weapon, right? So it's more like I want to be treated fairly, and I know that I demand this because I have been fair to everybody else, and you have no means to tell me that I'm wrong. That should
Yeah,
probably come as.
but that doesn't work in the corporate media world, unfortunately.
Hmm,
That just doesn't work. Having having the experience that I've had in the corporate media world, I would say that just doesn't work.
because again, the environments shapes
Matter.
you as a person, and for anything and everything, I keep telling my, clients as well. There's a place, there's a time, and there is a reasoning. If you have all
And
this
also
aligned.
another point I would like to add for that whoever young girl who is walking into the museum for the first time, uh, don't expect that whatever you've read and studied and admired about this profession exists in real life. It does not. So drop all your emotions and your ideals and be ready to become a cog in the machine. If you're not comfortable, get out.
That's as straight as the advice comes through. And Linda, if 10 years from now, people say one thing changed because you chose to work this way, what do you hope they're talking about?
I hope that people would think of me and say that I listened, I cared, and I was present. That's all I want.
That's a very simple way to put, but that has a gravitas when you say it. And I think it is not a simple thing. to achieve as well. And I wish you the very
Uh,
best in whatever you have set to achieve. And I will truly respect you for the work that you're doing and you're about to do. So, Linda, thank you so much. Truly,
Thank you,
what
Vidya.
what you have shared today is exactly the kind of story that GaVira Unfiltered was built for. It's not a sob story, a story of curiosity, courage, compassion, and a lifelong pursuit of understanding people a little
See,
better.
our sob stories are what make us stronger. See, I keep saying this every time. I think I had even mentioned to you earlier that I always consider myself as a phoenix. All are good, bad, ugly. They shape us who we are today, right? So instead of dwelling on our ugly parts of our lives, if we can refocus that energy, the sadness and the cruelty we may have faced from the world, if we can refocus that agony into something that blossoms, it's possible, right? This blooms in in a muck, in a murky pond water, right? So a lot of beautiful things can come out of it. We just have to have the faith.
Very true, and I cannot agree more with your assessment. And I think your journey reminded all of us that purpose isn't always found in one defining moment. I think sometimes it reveals itself one chapter at a time. And Linda, let me tell you this, what stayed with me as part of our conversation wasn't how many careers you've had. I think it reminded me that every one of them was guided by the same question: how can I help better than I did before? I think perhaps that's the growth, right? That's what growth really is. Not becoming someone new just because you had a situation, but becoming more of who you were already quietly been all along. And I have no doubt that some women listening today indeed wanted to hear exactly that. And to
Well,
everyone
that would
who's
be great if
listening,
I can help others.
I am sure you will. And so as a continuation, right? To everyone who's listening this episode, thank you for being here and listening to this conversation. If Linda's story moved something in you, please share it. Pass it on to someone in your world who might need that reminder that sometimes the path isn't about finding yourself, but about becoming that person you once needed. And if you like to connect with Linda and learn more about her work, her details will be in the comments below. And if you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and follow us on Spotify as well. So you never miss a conversation like this. We have more stories lined up, more women, more truth, and more of these real versions. So follow us on LinkedIn and also on Instagram if you want to get the juicy pieces of behind the scenes, episode drops, and conversations that continue beyond this microphone. So this is Kavira Unfiltered, real women, real stories, and definitely nothing filtered. Until next time, stay curious, lead with compassion, and keep showing up as the truest version of yourself. Thank you, Linda. Great having you here. And thank you, everybody. Bye bye.